Good evening, welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
And here are tonight's main stories.
Fears for the future of children with autism after families are told a specialist residential facility will close within weeks.
We're just not prepared to take this laying down. It's unacceptable. These children need routine, they need structure, they need time, and time is something that they aren't giving us.
Calls for tougher sentences for animal abusers after a sharp rise in cruelty cases across Yorkshire.
Rather than reaching out to the RSPCA and other animal charities, people unfortunately just either abandon their animals or unfortunately do turn to abuse their animals.
You were right, Pearl.
Of course I was, dear. What about?
The showbiz world pays tribute to Emmerdale actor Meg Johnson following her death at the age of 86.
And there was a spell of rain for everybody today, at least for an hour or two during the middle part of the day. But either side, sunshine with our showers. All the detail for the rest of the week a little later on.
First tonight, the shock and anger of parents of children with special educational needs over the closure of a South Yorkshire residential centre they say is a lifeline not just for them, but also for future generations.
Families were given just 4 weeks' notice of the move to shut Thurnsker House in Rotherham as part of cost-cutting measures by the National Autistic Society, which runs it. As Lisa Adlam reports, those affected say the impact will be devastating.
Eddie and Logan are thriving young men thanks to their families and in no small part to the support they've had at Thurnsker House in Rotherham, a residential centre in the grounds of the Robert Ogden School. For children and young people with autism, it's provided respite, fostered relationships and developed life skills. Logan first went there as an 11-year-old. Now 19, he says his experience has been life-changing.
And if it weren't for the staff helping me learn how to make a sandwich and how to make a bed in the morning and how to deal with my emotions, I don't think I'll be in the position where I am now, where I can learn how to control my anxiety, because I'm starting college, and for just genuine, really, really good staff, you know, and I'd be lost without them, you know.
But now Logan and Eddie, their parents and many others face losing that support. Told only last week that the centre, which is run by the National Autistic Society, is to close within 4 weeks.
It's going to put parents and families and children back into crisis point, which is where we was in when we had to fight so hard to get our children into the school in the first place and into the residential facility. I genuinely believe, hand on heart, that he would not be the young man that he is today. Sorry, it's choking me up a little bit. If it wasn't for the care and attention that he had through the residential facility.
Absolutely devastated, really are. You know, without that respite, Eddie wouldn't have been able to stay in the family home. With how his autism presents sometimes, you know, we don't know what we'd have done without it, and we rely on that.
The Robert Ogden School will remain open, but the National Autistic Society, which runs it alongside Thurnsker House, said the charity faced extreme financial challenges and difficult decisions had to be made over the residential centre. In a statement, Chief Executive Caroline Stevens said the Society was deeply sorry. She added, "As a provider, we do not operate at a scale in this area that enables us to continue to provide the quality of service that we expect and demand, and also that the children and young people deserve. We know this will be worrying for staff and the families we support. Our priority is to support those groups as we navigate this period of change." These families fear that change will have far-reaching consequences for their children, and they say they will fight the plans every step of the way. Lisa Adlam, ITV News.
Well, earlier I spoke to human rights advocate Chrissy Malidi, who represents parents of children with autism in South Yorkshire. I started by asking her how worried she is by the closure of the facility in Rotherham.
Well, I'm desperately worried because we have children and young people and young adults who are absolutely very vulnerable, and they've been put in a terrible situation where they've just had it dropped on them that the provision will be closing and not bothering coming back on in the September time. So they have nowhere to go. We have a dearth of provision within our localities. We only have one provision that's operational for children who have impairments within Sheffield, for example, nothing else. So there's nowhere else for them to go. There's been no consultation and no engagement with the parents and carers. So I don't know what's going to happen to them. We've had young people who are very distressed. And I've been out to visit people in their homes and seeing them within the wider community. And, and they're really, really heavily distressed, the children and young people concerned. One little girl was pulling out her eyelashes and pulling out her hair. She was so distressed because of the change and the transition that's been thrust upon her without any consultation or any preparation.
The National Autistic Society says it's having to make tough decisions because of financial pressures. You work in this area. How difficult is it at the moment for special educational needs providers?
It's a major worry because we are in crisis here in the UK, and in Yorkshire we have a heavy crisis because what we're seeing is, differentials with the north-south divide again in terms of allocation of funding and support. But on top of that, we have charities who are withdrawing, charities who are there to champion the rights, the entitlements and protections of children, and who are failing to do that.
With those financial pressures borne in mind, what more do you think could now be done?
Local authorities, health provisions and others in the wider community, including the children, young people and families themselves, would be happy to engage with NAS in relation to what could be done. We still have time potentially that they can open those doors, but it's where the willingness is, and if the willingness is there, the way is there also.
OK, Chrissy, we do have to leave it there, but for now, thank you very much indeed.
Next, to the sharp rise in the number of animal cruelty cases in our region, up a quarter in the last year.
The RSPCA recorded more than 1,300 cases of cruelty towards animals across North, South and West Yorkshire. It's led to calls to make use of strict sentencing powers towards those who abuse domestic pets and wildlife. Nick Smith reports.
Zara the Staffy Cross is one of the lucky ones. She was rescued last year by an RSPCA rehoming centre after a previous owner had cropped her ears, which is an illegal practice. But she now has a loving home with her new owner Paula, who took Zara on as a foster pup, but soon wanted to keep her for good.
As soon as they come into a home environment, they change. They're more relaxed, they're more themselves, and you can see their personalities. She came to me when she was about 16 weeks old, had her ears cropped at about 8 or 9, and then I started fostering her, and then a few months later I failed as a foster and ended up adopting her. It changes lives, it changes the dog's lives.
Zara's story is sadly similar to hundreds of incidents we saw across our region last year, including Bramble the pony, who was spotted being beaten, and luckily it was reported by members of the public. She was rescued and now resides at Queen Mary's School near Ripon. Some areas of our patch saw a striking rise in cruelty incidents. The highest was in West Yorkshire, with a 36% jump. Those based at the RSPCA centre in Doncaster say physical cruelty towards animals is now becoming more common.
I think a lot of it, unfortunately, is financial. It's the situation that people find themselves in. So rather than reaching out to the RSPCA and other animal charities to ask for help, where primarily we would be able to help people, people unfortunately just either abandon their animals or unfortunately do turn to abuse their animals.
It's led legal experts on animal cruelty cases to call for existing strong sentences to be enforced.
We say in the UK that we have some of the toughest animal cruelty laws in the world, but laws are only as good as their enforcement. In a lot of areas of animal abuse and animal crime, the law itself is okay. What we need is better, stronger and more consistent enforcement. And then when cases do get to court, we need to consider perhaps not just punishing individuals, but thinking about ways that we can deter people from committing crime again.
Despite being a nation of animal lovers, a small but sadly increasing majority are still prepared to subject them to shocking abuse. So those who strive to protect these often vulnerable creatures are appealing to the rest of us to report incidents of cruelty or neglect and bring the perpetrators to justice. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Oh, they're cute, aren't they? Now, do stay with us, still to come. Finance matters. Why children could be missing out on vital lessons in pocket money prudence.
And after Yorkshireman Johnny Bairstow found himself at the centre of a cricketing storm, find out what legendary umpire Dickie Bird made of his controversial Ashes dismissal.
Now to efforts to try to find jobs for thousands of people in Barnsley after new figures revealed people in the town are more likely to be out of work and not looking for employment than anywhere else in the country.
Yes, Barnsley has 6,000 people classed as economically inactive, a rate 12% higher than the national average. Leaders in the town are now looking at ways to turn things around. Here's Martin Fisher.
Round the table today to find solutions to get Barnsley working. Residents here are 12% more likely to be economically inactive than the national average, according to the Office for National Statistics.
First of all, we need to understand what the problem is. What is it that's causing people to stay away from work? Is that because of health? Is it caring responsibilities? Is it skills? What are the problems? So first of all, analysing those, then secondary, coming up with the ideas that start to change it for people.
They want to find new solutions so more of the town's 6,000 economically inactive residents can get back to work. And of that 6,000, it's thought if just 1,000 of them were got back into employment, well, that would bring some £29 million to the local economy here in Barnsley, decreasing the reliance on universal credit and increasing the well-being of those involved.
This could be a bunch of things. This could be employment support, this could be coaching, this could be how we talk to our employers about what employers can do, this could be about skills, this could be about business growth, this could be all of those things and more. Let's do the work and find out how we can best help people get back into work so they can drive their lives forward and drive our communities forward.
Megan Brooks always wanted to work, but with learning disabilities, the way into work wasn't straightforward. But with help from Barnsley Council, she's found her way into the workforce.
Well, I did it through college and I thought I was finishing, but I had a meeting next day and I've been here, is it 6 years, 6 years.
Were you concerned about being able to find a job?
Yes, I was, but somebody were helping me. So, and I was, happy that I had this job.
Megan's example is one Barnsley MP Dan Jarvis wants to see repeated.
We need to make sure that we've got the workforce skilled and ready to go in order to attract that inward investment. So we're working closely both with the Merrill Combined Authority, but also with national government to make sure that we are best placed to attract private sector investment into our area so that we can create those jobs that we want to see for the future.
It's hoped today's conference could see new initiatives in place in just 12 months and get thousands in Barnsley back to work. Martin Fisher, ITV News.
Right, we've got Kerry with us now and feeling a bit fresher actually today after that red hot June that we've just had.
Yeah, a fresh start to July the 3rd already, but yeah, it's been a record breaker, certainly for the UK, the hottest on record. North West and South Yorkshire beat their previous June daytime high by over 3 degrees, and that's quite phenomenal. It would normally be by a fraction of a degree and used to take years, if not decades, to do. A massive 72 ceremonial counties on the Met Office system recorded their hottest June on record, and it was the length of the hot spell that was striking, even for us, where we had a cool first half or first week of June, lasting most of the month, as well as some pretty warm nights. So yes, all of our Yorkshire counties, 2023 was the hottest June on record, despite that fairly chilly start. Now, the Met Office have done a rapid study of last month, and basically they've used their climate projections and compared this June and what's happened this June against the 3-decade period starting 1925 and the 3-decade period starting of the last 3 full decades. And basically what they've found is that the chance of breaking the previous record has more than doubled. And if we continued along a high emissions pathway, by 2050 we'd be looking at these breaking every other year. And this is what I found interesting. There are now 8 out of our 12 calendar months that now have an average temperature record set after 2006. So that's pretty phenomenal. Of course, we had warm seas as well. We've been talking about that. Our seas were also very warm. The long settle spell helped to create the marine heat wave, and in the waters surrounding the UK, in turn amplified the temperatures that we've had over the past month. So it's basically the predictions that we'd expect.
Yeah.
We've also had it very dry, only 55 to 65% of the rainfall. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot over the next couple of months, because we've got 2 months of summer to go for sure.
I mean, people are going to say they love the warm weather, but when we know why it's happening and what the potential impact is going to be, it's quite frightening.
Yeah, it's the level of temperature and the length that we're getting for sure. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Kerry, full forecast at the end of the programme.
Promise.
Thank you very much.
Now, there are calls for more children to be given lessons on the importance of financial management, after figures seen by ITV News showed that less than half of youngsters in Yorkshire have been taught about money either at home or at school.
Yes, the Money and Pensions Service says that children without a financial education are more likely to have money problems later in life and experience issues like poor credit ratings and even bankruptcy. Kevin Ashford reports.
What might be another advantage of putting it in a savings account?
Learning the facts about finance. Youngsters at this school get a good education about what money means. They even take exams in the subjects, but it's a knowledge they're using in everyday life too.
There's so many events that you need like financial help with, and then with other people who have had financial education, if you haven't, you're at like a severe disadvantage if you don't know what's the best option for you.
When you get a part-time job, you're going to need to be able to budget your finances correctly.
In the future, you don't know what's going to happen to you, and so just making sure that you take care of your financial well-being is just better to start earlier than later.
From reception, they get taught about the value of money and what money looks like, and then all the way up to year 13 when they get lessons and outside agencies in to talk to them about budgeting, student loans, about the cost of living and how to live on their own, and that's really, really important to make them resilient adults.
However, many youngsters don't get a good grounding in money matters. In a report shown exclusively to ITV News, just 43% of children aged between 7 and 17 in Yorkshire who were questioned said they'd had a meaningful financial education at home or at school. The Money and Pensions Service, who carried out the survey, calculates that means well over 480,000 youngsters in the region have missed out on being taught about their finances. The service's manager for the region, based in Sheffield, says it's a problem that needs to be addressed.
The race is on to support people around financial education, and everybody can take part in that. That will be from banks and building societies, financial institutions and foundations, and they've got a big part to play. But also parents and schools can make a huge difference by combining financial skills to everyday experiences.
The Department for Education says financial literacy is compulsory for 11 to 16-year-olds in the national curriculum. But it seems some work still needs to be done to get messages about money management over to every youngster. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
To football, and we're just over 2 weeks to go until the start of the Women's World Cup in Australia. The Lionesses had their final warm-up match on Saturday before jetting off down under on Wednesday. There were big hugs before the game between Millie Bright, who's from Killamarsh, and Whitby's Beth Mead, who missed the World Cup through injury. As for the match itself, well, Harrogate's Rachel Daly was given the nod up front, and despite a few chances early on, failed to capitalise on any of them, much like the team as a whole. The game finished 0-0. Meanwhile, in the men's game, defender Mads Andersen has today left Barnsley to sign for Premier League side Luton after 4 years in South Yorkshire. Now, I started with cricket and I'm going to end with it too. Now, take a look at this. This is Hatfield Town versus Hallam in the Yorkshire Cricket Southern Premier League. Joshua Yem, sorry to name him, but here we go, puts down a relatively simple catch in the slips. I'm trying to be nice to Joshua here. It's what's called a dolly in cricketing parlance. As you can see, the bowler, wicketkeeper, outfielders all gutted that he didn't snare it. But look at what happens next. The next ball, another edge, and Joshua leaping like a salmon to his right, plucking the ball out of thin air. Cue celebrations, a bit of disbelief, and quite a few laughs as well. Well done to Joshua. He set the bar both high and low there, hasn't he, for the next game?
And good on him for putting the Yorkshire Cricket Southern Premier League on the map, because it's not often we get them on calendar.
We don't. I think there's a first time for everything, isn't there? And that's a first for that league, definitely.
Sure.
Well
Chris,
done.
thank you very much indeed. I think I've seen some more agile salmon than that in my life. Now, finally, she's been called a beautiful woman inside and out, and the owner of the kindest heart. Just some of the tributes being paid to the Emmerdale actress Meg Johnson, who's died at the age of 86.
She'd played the role of Pearl Ladderbanks since 2003, but also played roles in Coronation Street and Brookside. Adam Fowler has been looking back at her career.
Pearl, what are you doing here? That snotty little madam at the vet's then.
Meg Johnson made her first Emmerdale appearance as Pearl Ladderbanks in 2003.
Right, who's up for another cake? I'm going. Leonard, you can do the honours.
It's a role she played for nearly 2 decades.
Oh, please, Leonard. Lieutenant Uhura has to have a Captain Kirk.
But it wasn't her first role in a soap.
What's all this, then?
Well, you did say I needed a haircut.
Get that stupid towel off and get out.
After first appearing in Coronation Street in the 1970s, she returned in the 80s to play the part of Eunice G. Here she is talking about it in 1999.
You know, it's 17 years since I was in before, but it really, when you come back and see everybody again, you can't believe that you've been away.
Meg was part of Victoria Wood's As Seen on TV. An accomplished singer, she also appeared in numerous musicals and stage shows.
If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
But it's Emmerdale Meg Johnson will be best remembered for, and the cast have been remembering her. Mark Charnock, who plays Marlon, wrote that she was the owner of the kindest heart, the sweetest nature and the cheekiest twinkle. Lisa Riley said, "You taught me so much: discipline, respect, comedy and how not to take life too seriously." And Gemma Oten, who played Rachel Breckle, said she's a beautiful woman inside and out.
Owen? Oh, it's Owen! Oh, Leonard, it's Owen!
Meg Johnson passed away on Saturday evening at the age of 86. She died peacefully, surrounded by her family, who said she was a kind and wonderful lady, full of warmth and always with a twinkle in her eye.
Meg Johnson, who's died at the age of 86, and wonderful to see the admiration and the affection that all of the cast at Emmerdale had for Meg.
Absolutely, a real old school all-round entertainer.
Absolutely.
Let's get the weather now. Here's Kerry.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Yes, hello again. It was a blustery all day across the region today. Those winds quite strong and gusty, particularly where we had the showers. And yes, a mixture of sunshine and showers. So a few rainbows across the region, like this one in Rolleston. A big thank you to Pete Sims. Like this one earlier today in Keighley, a big thank you to Keith Johnson. Keep them coming. Weather photos at itv.com. Like this one in Huddersfield by Danny Williams. So yes, a beautiful start this morning, but we did see that mackerel sky indicating something a little bit more turbulent for lunchtime. So sunshine and showers with blustery conditions continues to be the story over the next few days. But it does look like by the end of the week, we will start to import warmer air from a southerly direction. So this was the little system coming through for the middle part of the day. But you can see behind that already clear skies and scattered showers, and those showers becoming increasingly more scattered as we head through into the night. So there's still a chance of one or two of them. Could be on the heavy side, but for most of us overnight tonight it will be dry, clear, quite cool in rural spots with a bit of a breeze from the southwest, so down into single figures. Nothing too cold, and still the risk of some showery outbreaks in the west by the time we reach dawn. Another great shot by John Earnshaw. A big thank you for sharing. 4:42 and 9:39 ISN times for tomorrow. So essentially tomorrow is sunny spells and showery outbreaks, quite breezy conditions, again quite gusty where we get any heavier showers. Could be a rumble or two of thunder and a flash of lightning, not completely out of the question, but in the sunnier spells, still with that breeze, maybe up a notch to around 20 or 21. That is just about the average for the time of year. Very similar story as we head through into Thursday. Again, we are expecting a mix of sunshine and showers for midweek and for Thursday, but then from Friday onwards, drier and warmer.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Well, we're now in our final week of the ITV pollen count. The grass pollen is now heading towards its second peak of the season. It's either high or very high towards the end of the week.
Some gorgeous skies around these days, aren't they?
Absolutely. Even by night, there's a full moon tonight and it's a super moon. It's 14,000 miles closer than it normally is. So there you go.
And cloud-free. Thanks, Kerry.
Fantastic.
That's it for now. Michael's back at 10:30. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.